Yes, yes. Oh, yes. I was filming a film called Black Mass in Boston, and Mr. Hurd had come with me. And I had to, for the film, I had to. There were very early calls to work because I had a number of prosthetics glued to my face and blue contacts, so that I could resemble the actual. It was based on the true story of James Whitey Bulger, and so I had to go in quite early to get the prosthetics glued to my face and all that, and work. Then you'd work, you know, the whole day, and then at the end of the night, they would remove the prosthetics, which takes if it took 3 hours to put them on, it took about an hour to take them off. You know, so on top of what could be anywhere between a 14, 16, 17-hour day of work, you know, what with the application of the makeup and then the taking off of the applications.
Was Miss Hurd staying with you in Boston during the entire time that you were making that film?
Yes. Yes, she was.
And who from your staff was in Boston with you during that time?
Jerry Judge. Keenan Wyatt, Stephen Duders, Nathan Holmes, I believe. And I believe Malcolm Connolly was there as well. So I would have assistants, sound technician, security. I believe that was it.
Mr. Depp, we heard yesterday from Mr. Wyatt about a flight that you and Mr. Wyatt and Ms. Hurd were on from Boston to LA in May 2014. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And could you please tell the jury what you remember about that specific flight?
I remember that as I was still shooting, filming Black Mass, before I did Black Mass, the film, my sister Christy and I were talking about the oxycodones that I had been. Again, you know, that was the monkey on my back. That she came to me. She told me she'd read this book of Dr. Kipper's book, and I read Dr. Kipper's book, a good majority of it, and I agreed that I would do the detox. I would kick the opiates, but there was no time to do it before the film. So when the nurse, which was Nurse Debbie Lloyd, when she came to Boston, she had asked me, what is your dosage? How many of these are you taking per day? And, you know, someone who had been under, you know, under the kind of lock and key of a prescription drug that is highly addictive. I mean, with built-in barbs, this drug does not want you to stop taking it. she asked me how many I took per day, or my dosage, and of course, as any person who is addicted and essentially a fool to the drug, and you know how important it is because you have felt the sting when you don't have it. So I'd agreed to the detox, and she asked me how many I took. I told her, obviously, more than I was taking, purely because when you're in that frame of mind, the one thing that you do not want to, a situation you don't want to find yourself in, is having no access to the thing that will make you not high. It will make you, it gets you, you only get better from it if you start to get the shakes and the tremors and you could feel this traveling into your system. Your receptors are out in mass, and your receptors are demanding that drug. If you don't give the drug to the receptors, you will start going into a pretty nasty withdrawal, and it could, which could and has ended in sort of seizures. You can go into pretty nasty seizures. So I had told Debbie Lloyd more than was necessary, so that I could always have one or two in my pocket on the just in case, so I didn't find myself, on a plane or anywhere without one in my pocket to stop the inevitable body cramps and nausea and stomach cramps and seizure of the bones and the shaking, and also it's quite an emotional ride as well. So yes, before the flight, Amber and her assistant, Savannah McMillan, wanted to be picked up in New York and then have the plane fly to Boston to pick me up, to bring us back to Los Angeles. We had spoken the night before. We had argued the night before. She was most definitely looking for a fight, actively searching for a way to instigate a fight with me. And I had taken 2 of these opiates, these oxycodones, and I can tell you now, some of you may be very, very well aware of this, opiates are extreme downers. So if you have enough opiates in you, you will essentially go on what's called the nod. You'll just drop into sleep. So I've heard the words blackout used, and there's a grave difference between a blackout from alcohol abuse, because that is a person who has ingested enough alcohol to render them they can still behave, and they can still stand and talk and scream and yell and cry and do whatever they do, and never remember a thing. And generally, they're always embarrassed by it. A blackout is a very, very different animal to the opiate taking you into dreamland. So when I arrived on the plane, I was not feeling any pain, and I knew that she was ready for some kind of brawl, and I sat on the plane drawing. I was drawing in my notebook. She would verbally heckle, hassle, accuse, poke, prod physically, you know, poke and prod psychologically, emotionally, and finally, you know, as was my, the one thing I learned, if you're gonna hide someplace from somebody, go straight into the bathroom. So I walked back into the back of the plane. I grabbed a pillow, and I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and lay down on the bathroom floor and went to sleep. And that's where I remained for the rest of the flight.
How much, if any, alcohol had you had before you got on the flight?
I honestly don't recall having any alcohol. I mean, maybe there was the sort of glass of champagne when you got on the plane or something like that, the initial thing. You know, people order glasses of wine. People also tend to have a few drinks before a plane takes off, because some people don't like the turbulence and the this and the that, so it's a little bit of a liquid courage, you know. But I certainly, after ingesting 2 of the roxycodones, alcohol was not necessary. So I can tell you now that I was not drinking to excess, certainly not. And if I had, I'd probably been in the bathroom hugging porcelain as opposed to sleeping on a pillow.
Who else was on that flight that you can recall?
I remember Jerry Judge was on the flight. Savannah was on the flight. Ms. Hurd. Keenan, Wyatt, Stephen Duders. I believe that's it.
What do you recall happening after you arrived back in LA? Go back to the same home together after that flight?
No, I don't believe, no, we didn't. I don't believe we did. I think she had decided if this is the time. Pretty sure. I believe she had decided to check herself into the Chateau Marmont. There are so many of these, it's hard to sort of keep them all straight.
Who would have paid for Ms. Hurd to stay at the Chateau Marmont?
I would have paid for it. If she wanted to go to the Chateau Marmont, I wasn't going to let her pay for it, no matter the circumstances. I wasn't going to let her pay for it because I knew that that might get expensive for her. So generally, I would take care of things of that nature.
And why, did Ms. Heard tell you why she was staying at the Chateau Marmont?
No. Well, I mean, she was clearly upset, and she was irate, and I can't say that it was a bad idea for her to stay at the Chateau Marmont at that time. I don't know why she went to the Chateau, since she still had her apartment on Orange, I believe, and the penthouse, because I could have gone to Sweetser, but she went to the Chateau Marmont.
Mr. Depp, do you recall why you were flying from Boston to LA in May 2014?
I can't remember if it was a break from the film or if I had finished the film, and that was before we went, well, before I was supposed to go to the island to detox from the opiates.
I think I'm about to switch gears, so
Okay,
if this is a
that's-
good time for a break.
All right.
Oh.
Ladies and